Hi everyone, today I am going to be talking about the case of John Joubert. John Joubert was known for the murder of 3 young boys, as well as kidnapping, sadism, biting, and stabbing. He had at least 3 victims that we know of. He murdered from August 22nd, 1982 to December 2nd, 1983, and he was arrested on January 12th, 1984. John Joubert was born on July 2nd, 1963 in Massachusetts. He was considered an intelligent child. He began reading at 3 years old, and by 5 was borrowing books from the local library. He lived with his mother after his parents divorced when he was 6 years old. He resented his mother when he got older because he considered her to be controlling and she kept him from his father. He was a small child, and because of that, he dealt with bullying. He had also been experiencing violent and sadistic fantasies since about the age of 6 years old. One of those fantasies included his babysitter. He would imagine killing and eating her. He later told his psychiatrist that he didn't have bad feelings toward her. She was just someone that he could possibly murder. When John Joubert was 12 years old, he confessed to having homosexual thoughts, which led to more bullying. At 13 years old, he stabbed a young girl with a pencil, and when she cried in pain, he was sexually stimulated. The next day, he slashed a girl with a razor blade as he drove past her on his bike. From this day on, he continued to attack children his own age, as well as children younger than him, just because he wanted to and he liked the thrill. At 16 years old, he attacked an 8-year-old boy and almost killed him, and each time he attacked someone, the violence got worse. John Joubert's first murder victim was Richard Stetson. He was 11 years old. He went for a run on August 22nd, 1982, along the Back Cove Trail in Portland, Maine. The next day, his body was discovered on the side of the freeway. Richard had been stabbed and strangled, and there were bite marks on his body. There was a suspect originally arrested at the time. However, his teeth did not match the bite marks, so he was eventually released. John Joubert's second murder victim was Danny Joe Eberly. He was 13 years old. He went missing while delivering newspapers in Bellevue, Nebraska on September 18th, 1983. His body was found 3 days later and was 4 miles away from where his bicycle had been left. He was left in his underwear, and his hands and feet were bound. Surgical tape had been used to tape his mouth closed, and he had been stabbed 9 times. John Joubert's third murder victim was Christopher Walden. He was 12 years old. He disappeared in Papillion, Nebraska on December 2nd, 1983. He had been walking when Joubert ordered him into his vehicle by threatening him with a knife. He told Christopher to take off his clothes, which he did. He did refuse to lie down, though, which made John angry. He struggled with Christopher and then ended up stabbing him. He also cut Christopher's throat so deeply that his head was almost removed from his body. 2 days later, his body was found 5 miles away from town. On January 11th, 1984, a teacher reported to police that she had seen a man driving around suspiciously, and when the driver saw her write down his license plate, he stopped and threatened her before driving off. Police checked the license plate and found that the vehicle was a rental and was in the possession of Joubert. His personal car was in the shop for repairs and matched witness reports from the abductions. The police obtained a search warrant for his home, and during the search they found the same type of rope that had been used to bind 2 of the victims. He was brought in for questioning and confessed to being responsible for the killing of Danny Joe and Christopher Walden and was charged for the murders. Initially, he pled not guilty, but changed his plea to guilty. He was assessed on several occasions by a psychiatrist and was diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder, sadistic tendencies, and a schizoid personality. However, he had not been in a psychotic state when he committed the crimes. John Joubert was found guilty of the 2 murders and was sentenced to death. He was also later convicted of killing Richard Stetson in Maine and received a sentence of life imprisonment for that murder. He was executed by electric chair on July 17, 1996 in Nebraska. His execution led to an appeal to the Nebraska Supreme Court to have the electric chair abolished as a cruel and unusual punishment method because of the state of John's body after his death. He had received a 4-inch brain blister on the top of his head, as well as blisters on both sides of his scalp above his ears. It is alleged that his final statement before execution was, "I do not know if my death will change anything or if it will bring anyone peace." It is also alleged that at one point he said, "It was the power and the domination and seeing the fear that was more exciting than actually causing the harm." John Joubert had the nicknames the Nebraska Boy Snatcher and the Wolford Slasher.